Hey, everybody. Let's talk about what's going on this week, which we are still working on our argumentative essay. Let's see. We are on week 11 now. My goodness, we are moving at the speed of light. Okay, so what you should be working on this week is listed here. Continue to work on this essay. Continue to keep up with those journal entries. We're going to talk some about bias and connotation, and then there's some practice with commas. But aside from all of that, I think you can navigate those things yourself, and I'm not going to talk about those a whole lot. What I am going to talk about has to do with the research that you are required to do for the assignment. So let's go back here and look at the essay guidelines. Make sure that you look these things over repeatedly. It's always a good idea to look at your assignment sheet multiple times as you are working because, this is a complicated assignment. There's a lot of moving parts here. You need to focus on, the actual argument you're making. You need to focus on the research that you're trying to do, that kind of thing. So make sure that you revisit the assignment sheet just to make sure you're hitting all the points you need to hit. Now, what you want to do is by now you should have your topic. After I finish this, I'm going to go look at your journal entries to see what kinds of topics we're talking about here. For this essay, you will select a compelling social issue that you feel passionately about and write an essay in which you state your opinion or your main point and work to convince your audience by appealing to its emotions, desires, and needs. You will need to support your view with at least 3 main reasons. Now, we've got some examples of social issues here. You do not have to write on these. You pick your topic. I'm not telling you what to write about. You pick your topic. And you should be able to support your argument. You should be able to support your claim, as we have up here, your claim. You should be able to support that claim with at least 3 main reasons. And those reasons are backed up with evidence. And the evidence is what you're going to be finding in the library. If you look down here, you need to have that primary source. You must include a minimum of 1 primary source in the form of an interview or survey. This information must be cited correctly in the form of paraphrasing or quoting. So that means that if you do an interview or a survey, either one, when you reference that survey or that interview, you have to cite it correctly. And there are rules related to MLA sourcing that will tell you how to do that. For your secondary sources, you need to have at least 3. These sources must come from the library databases. No Google or Wikipedia type sites are permitted. So please pay particular attention to that. The assignment, which I did not write, requires that you make use of the library database. Don't run afoul of sites that don't come from the database because the assignment's asking you specifically to use the library. So for those secondary sources, you don't have to get your primary source from there because you're creating that primary source. The secondary sources do need to come from the library. So let's talk some about what exactly you should be doing as you research those secondary sources. So if we go back here to, where did it go? Where is the, here it is. Don't forget, in the library research page, we've got a link to the tutorials in the library. Just because I asked you to use one tutorial doesn't mean that you should forget there are other tutorials there. So if you run into issues, this is a good page to return to and see if maybe there's some information here that might be helpful to you, that might help you out in terms of citation or keywords or whatever. I do have a PowerPoint here. It's going to reference a textbook called How to Write Anything, but you don't have to have access to that textbook. That's just where I got a lot of this information. Now, this first slide talks a little bit about kind of why you do research and what might be important for you to keep in mind as you are considering what you want to research. Please don't get overwhelmed with this. Please make sure that you keep in mind that there's a lot of stuff out there. And if you use the right kinds of strategies, good research strategies, you can kind of rein in the overload that you might experience. Like I said earlier, read that assignment sheet multiple times. Does it require you to do specific types of research? Yeah, definitely. Limit the types of sources you can consider. Absolutely. Require you to use a particular database? Yes, indeedy. Look for what things you must do and then make sure that you do them. Come up with a plan. Just like with anything else, you got to have a plan going forward. If you don't have some kind of plan in place, you're going to run into a problem. So you might find some resources that, you read over the abstract or the introduction and you say, yeah, this is not going to work. This has got to go. So you need to make sure that as you go through and make choices based on your needs, that you can easily keep up with those resources as you kick some to the curb and decide to keep others. You will need to be careful with that documentation. Do not let yourself get sloppy. It can have devastating repercussions, one of which is plagiarism. So be careful. So continuing on, you hopefully already have a topic for our class, but if you do not, you need to find one quickly. You should make sure it's something that you care about. It should be something that can function within the parameters of the assignment and that's answerable within the time limit. A larger page limitation does not necessarily mean that you need a bigger topic. Break your larger topic into small, intriguing bits. You will find resources much more easily that way. So, as you are doing your research, your topic will change. I promise you that. If you're doing your research correctly, your topic is going to become more refined as you learn more about it and understand it better and know a little bit more about what you're interested in pursuing in the essay. It's going to change what your topic is. Your topic is going to narrow. So you might start with a topic like the history of punk rock, which is massive. People write encyclopedias about that sort of thing. As you research that, you're going to come to understand where your interest is and where you want to focus your attention, and eventually you're going to get it narrow enough so that it could be something like the influence of 1970s punk rock on Nirvana. So you might start with broad, which is fine, but it's got to get refined to a reasonable size. Read widely and let your research guide you as you narrow your topic. Do you find yourself drawn to a particular aspect of your topic? Follow that interest. Try to turn your research question or topic into a claim that is one full sentence long. Since this is an argumentative essay and it deals with a social issue, a good template for your thesis statement or claim is we should do X because Y. And that's kind of setting it up like a algebra problem, X and Y being those things that you need to fill in. We should have universal health care because it's cheaper to treat illnesses before they become devastating than it is to treat illness after it becomes, fully, it becomes a huge problem. So, something like that. Pulling just out of the top of my head. We should fix this problem in this way because of this. So this is where you would use your research to back up the claim that you're making in that thesis statement. Always go to the librarian for help. Our librarian is not named Abby. That's a librarian at another school, but there are librarians here at Mitchell who are very interested in helping you. Now, this is important, primary versus secondary. You probably already know that, but I did want to talk about this briefly. If you're talking about a primary document, if you're talking about a primary resource, it is a document that provides an eyewitness account of an event or phenomenon. Essentially, it's something written by someone who experienced whatever it is that you're talking about. A secondary source is an article or a book that interprets or reports on events and phenomena described in primary sources. For example, the Zapruder film is a primary historical document. The books or articles that examine the film are secondary sources. So your interview or your what you create there is your primary source. But then the other things that you find via the library, those are going to be your secondary sources. They're not necessarily going to speak to your interview or, whatever, because obviously you haven't done that yet. But they're secondary resources that talk about a historical thing that has taken place. Primary research represents raw data. That's what you're going to be creating and generating through your interview process. Letters, journals, newspaper accounts, official documents, laws, court opinions, statistics, research reports, audio and video recordings. Those are primary research. Using primary sources requires you to generate your own ideas about a subject. Secondary sources allow you to learn what others have discovered about a topic. Secondary sources include scholarly books, articles, encyclopedias, magazine pieces, and many websites. You might read Hamlet as your primary text and then read various commentaries on it as secondary sources. I think this does a great job of really encapsulating the difference between the primary source and the secondary source. You might have a text that someone has written, like Shakespeare or, whoever. But then you also have texts that other people have written about their experience reading Hamlet or their experience reading whatever it is that you're talking about. So this is a great encapsulation of primary versus secondary. You want to make sure that you keep up with your information that you find. One of the pieces of software that I like to use is called Zotero. It's found at zotero.org, and it will create your citations and your works cited page for you. So like I said earlier in this PowerPoint, work smart. Don't work hard. Work smart. So that's just a brief. I'm going to post this PowerPoint for you on our website as well. But that's just kind of a brief overview of what primary and secondary sources are. Now, in the next video, I'm going to take you through a little bit of use of the library databases, just to make sure that you have what you need.